Hey, what's up, everyone? Thank you so much for checking out a video here on Shows, Style, and Spirit. I am Ebony, and it is early on this Sunday morning, the Sunday before Halloween, the last Sunday in October 2022. And so I am really excited to talk about this Ashanti video. So, this Ashanti interview with Angie Martinez. She is a radio personality based out of New York. Angie Martinez, she recorded music in the early 2000s. Angie Martinez was on the song Ladies Night with Lil Kim, Missy Elliott, Left Eye from TLC, rest in peace. You can even watch that music video here on YouTube. So many beautiful Black actresses were in the video. It was amazing. But so is Ashanti. She is amazing as well. I took lots of notes of this interview. You can watch this interview on Angie Martinez's YouTube channel. Her YouTube channel is simply titled Angie Martinez. It was a great interview. So let's jump right in. Okay, so in the beginning of the interview, Ashanti points out that she was 21 when her first album came out. You know, it was hugely successful. Murder Inc. had, Ashanti, Ja Rule. It was always, popping beats. And Ashanti wrote her lyrics. She wrote for other people like Jennifer Lopez, a very talented young woman. Ashanti admitted that she has regrets in life, including having faith in certain people, and Ashanti eloquently explained that Irv Gotti tarnished Murder Inc.'s accomplishments with what he chooses to emphasize about the record label's heyday. Of course, recently Irv Gotti has been promoting his documentary on his record label, Murder Inc., and he did the Drink Champs interview recently where he talked about his physical relationship with Ashanti. And Ashanti used the word degrading to describe, Irv's angle on celebrating Murder Inc. I think that Murder Inc. definitely was a large record label that contributed to hip hop culture, especially from the late 90s and the early 2000s. Its its contribution is just as significant as like a Death Row Records or Bad Boy Records. Absolutely. And so I have to agree with her that he seems to be in promoting his documentary. He is basically using his physical relationship with Ashanti to promote it versus the music. And that's not cool. And I don't like, using a woman to make yourself look better or make yourself look in a certain light. And I'm going to talk more about that. Okay. So Ashanti also told Angie Martinez that Irv is not in a good place mentally. And Ashanti spoke on Irv's motivation to speak on he and Ashanti's personal or physical relationship. She said that he doesn't want to let go. Ashanti talked about when a man can no longer control you, that he will bash you and try to make you look bad. And this is true. You don't even have to have had a sexual relationship with a man. They will disrespect you simply because they cannot fuck you. I can experience that. And I'm sure you have too. Like if you're out and about running errands, or maybe you're sitting at the bar having a drink, minding your business, and a man is trying to push up on you and you're not interested. And then the way they respond to your, um, rejection is to be disrespectful. But you yourself may not have rejected them in a humiliating way. You may just be trying to walk away, ignore them, or say no thank you. And then they're disrespecting you because they're mad that you have rejected them. And that is definitely the energy that Irv Gotti is giving when it comes to Ashanti. So, also, similarly, what I do want to say about the way people respond to you is not just in romantic relationships or where someone is trying to hit on you and you're not interested. Other types of relationships like friendships, sibling relationships, when people can no longer control you, they may try to provoke you just for a reaction, or, they want to try and manipulate you and make you feel insecure, like back when they could once control you. Like people, if people had a negative interaction with you, or the relationship between you and that person was toxic or negative, they're not ready to accept that you have woken up. You've woken up to the fuck shit that they've been disrespectful. They don't want to accept that you've changed for the better. They're hoping that they can still try to control you. I'm the baby of a large family. I have 5 sisters and a brother, and they are 12 to 21 years older than me. So I definitely know what it's like to be controlled, and so I can relate to anyone who is expressing what that's like. And that's definitely what Ashanti has been talking about in this interview. So at one point, according to Ashanti, Irv wouldn't let Ashanti record music. He was mad that she was dating Nelly. And this is why you don't mix business with pleasure. I wrote down this note, and then several minutes after I wrote down this note, Angie Martinez even said this to Ashanti. Like, wouldn't you agree? This is why you kind of don't mix business with pleasure. And I'm not sure if it was implied that Ashanti had to fuck for beats. You've heard of that. I remember watching an interview with Alicia Keys, and she said that it took a while for her to get a solid record deal, because there would be producers who would promise her that they could get her a record deal when really they were just trying to date her. And that is just something that women have to go through, even if you're not in the recording industry and you work for a corporation, you have a white collar job. It's just hard for women because some men, not all men, but some men, assume that you are hard up for money and that you'll do anything to keep that job. That's why in the thumbnail for this video, I typed out that women have it hard on the job. And that is something that came to my mind while watching Ashanti's interview with Angie Martinez. And then, yes, that's what I'm looking at my notes. I'm always like, I speak from the heart. So what's in my heart, I've also written down, and then I'll glance back at my notes. Oh, I've already touched on that. Yes. So Ashanti said that I'm sorry, not Nelly, but Irv wanted high ratings for his documentary. And that definitely makes sense. And it just speaks to how, a man, not only do they react a certain way when you reject them, or people react a certain way when they can no longer control you, but there's also this image that a man is like very manly or player when he can go around and tell people that he has had sex with you. You two have done something. And that is what Irv is doing. He's using Ashanti not only to promote the documentary about Murder Inc., but he also wants people to know that, yeah, he was that guy. He was a Mac for, use of an old term. But he's using Ashanti to do it, and that's not cool. Even if you and I were intimate, you don't have to air my business. You may not care about telling people about who you've been physical with, but don't tell my business. And I think that they do that when they want to look a certain way. If they feel like their manhood is tied to how many women that they've been with, then they're going to share that, they've been with you. Now, what I have to say is, I do not agree with, of course, anybody who sleeps with a married person. And then I didn't agree with Ashanti saying to Angie Martinez that, he's not in a good space mentally. She also says throughout the interview that Irv is hurt. He's so hurt. And I just feel like, let's not cape for him. Let's not make excuses for why he's disrespecting you and being degrading. Because that's why some men do not change. They do not change for the better because they know that there's going to always be some of the female population who will cape for them and accept the disrespect, accept the negative behavior. We need to just say that he's just being an asshole. He's using you to promote his documentary, and he's just being a jerk, and he has to let people know that the two of you were physical. And that's not cool at all. And I just love this picture. This just reminds me of the early 2000s. You can even see Charlie Baltimore, to the left, kind of in the middle. And I just love it. It's giving me nostalgia. So, yes, Ashanti said that as a result of dealing with Nelly, she received death threats. Irv definitely didn't like her dating Nelly, and I guess, they went public. I remember, like, it felt like Ashanti and Nelly dated for a long time. And I would say, I'm guessing, like maybe 5 years, and then they suddenly broke up. When I was younger, I used to think like, oh, she must have broken up with Nelly because he wouldn't marry her. Maybe, but now that, I'm not as young as I once was, and I also don't subscribe to some of the things that I was raised to embrace. Like I'm not saying that I don't believe in marriage, but that's no longer on my radar. So I'm not going to interact with men with the hopes of, oh, this may turn into actually a meaningful relationship that may result in marriage. I no longer have that mindset because I just don't, for various reasons. But when I say all that to say, perhaps they just broke up maybe because Nelly was cheating, or maybe she just wasn't interested anymore. But back when I was younger, I used to think, oh, I guess, Nelly wouldn't marry Ashanti, so that's why they broke up. But anyway, Ashanti told Angie Martinez that Irv's emotions kept him from running the record label as he should have. And what I found to be so interesting about this is, it's funny because the stereotype is that women are emotional. And stereotypes about women actually allow men to function in feminine energy undetected until they show their hand. And when Irv, did the Drink Champs interview, and he's been promoting his documentary, saying that he and Ashanti had a physical relationship, that is him functioning in feminine energy, being catty, being petty. And really, we need to stop normalizing that being catty is just a feminine quality, because men have shown time and time again that they can be catty, they can be petty. And that's why I also put on the thumbnail for this video that, Irv has feminine energy. Not only was he controlling of Ashanti's career, she said he wanted Ashanti to use his same accountant. Because then I bet Irv was going to pressure the accountant to share Ashanti's financial business with him, or Irv was going to probably try to have his accountant steer Ashanti into making certain investments, allegedly. And that's my opinion. That's very controlling. I remember I have a rental property, and my very first tenant, she was just awful, just to put it lightly, and she was driving the neighbors crazy. And so my sister, I confided in my one sister who also has rental properties. I just have one rental property. She has more. But she was trying to, what started off as me venting, it was actually her trying to come up with a new tenant. And it was like people from the church that she attends. And I just wasn't with it because, like I said, I'm the baby. I have 5 sisters. This particular sister is 14 years older than me and has always been controlling. And I just did not want her in my income business. I did not want her trying to control that stream of income for me. So, and of course, as soon as she saw that I wasn't biting on her idea of recommending a tenant, then it was like, oh, Ebony, I think you should sell that property. Don't worry about having a tenant. And, I just didn't tell her anything. I just moved in silence, and I just got another tenant, and I've had the same one for 4.5 years. So, But anyway, I just can really relate to this, as you can see, because Ashanti spoke about Nelly's controlling nature, and I could definitely relate. So that's why this video, it just speaks to me 100%. But Irv was definitely functioning in so-called feminine energy. Not only was he being controlling, and being, having that physical relationship with Ashanti, that was the masculine energy. But the petty side, baby, and being mad that she was with Nelly, definitely was feminine energy. And then also, there were examples of his manipulation. He actually told Ashanti that, nobody fucks with you. And the nobody meaning producers in the recording industry. So Irv would actually tell Ashanti that no producers wanted to make beats for her. And Ashanti later learned that producers said, we always wanted to work with you. We would reach out to Irv about working with you. We thought you didn't want to work with us. So Irv was actually trying to stop Ashanti's bag because he was mad that she was dating Nelly and that she had moved on from him, which Ashanti actually clarifies that she wasn't even in a quote unquote relationship with Irv. She said that he had several girlfriends. Ashanti was just one of many, according to her. She said that I felt like Ashanti was pointing out that Irv had several females on the side outside of his marriage, trying to minimize her quote unquote dealings with him. And that is something that I noticed Ashanti says several times throughout the interview, her dealings with Irv and her dealings with Nelly. I guess that relates to, a physical sexual relationship. So that is just something that you have to kind of like keep in the back of your mind as you're watching the interview. So Ashanti also told Angie Martinez that, Irv told DJs not to play her music. So it sounds like that. Okay, so when she said that, he would tell DJs not to play her music, that was obviously a very clear form of like punishment. So I'm guessing at that point she was dating Nelly. It was public knowledge that she was dating Nelly. Irv felt some type of way. She probably had cut Irv off sexually. And it just looked like revenge and sabotage. So I want to go back and make a point that, like earlier I said, we don't know if it was implied that Ashanti would have to fuck for beats or fuck to have a record label, fuck to have a wardrobe budget, fuck to go on tour, fuck to have music videos, so in the beginning, it was probably classic sexual harassment. But then once she agreed to the physical relationship and then cut him off, now it's like revenge and sabotage. And it's so sad because, even if he had a HR rep working for the label, how do you go to HR and say, well, the owner of the record label is mad that I'm no longer sleeping with him, and he's punishing me, punishing my career? And let's just keep it a buck. For all of us who have had corporate jobs, that human resources reps, they're really meant just to protect companies from being sued. They do not have the employee's interest at heart. So even if Ashanti never had a physical relationship with Irv, never did anything inappropriate with him, and he had an HR rep there would have been no one to protect Ashanti. It's really pathetic. Like, a woman has to either like deal with the sexual harassment, quit and find a new job, or you would actually sue. And then, eventually you're definitely not going to work there anymore if you do sue. So it's terrible. And I feel like her interview, that's what this is shining a light on. And it's so funny because, a few years ago, 5 years ago, the Me Too movement was popping. And this interview would have been huge for the Me Too movement. So it speaks to that Ashanti kept it a secret, her experiences, right? And she's only really talking because Irv has opened his mouth in a disrespectful way. Now, Ashanti, she actually talked about, she was in talks with the rapper and producer extraordinaire Dr. Dre about getting a record deal. And interestingly, she actually shared that with Irv. And Ashanti told Angie Martinez that Irv said, well, if you do a record deal with Dr. Dre, I want 90% of whatever you earn for the rest of your life. Just a ridiculous, ridiculous portion to take. So it's like he was using her sexually and then he was using her monetarily. And so she pretty much said that as a result of Irv wanting so much of her royalties, that she decided to do Broadway. She played Dorothy in The Wiz on Broadway, and she was saying how it was such a different experience from working as a singer and songwriter because it was like 8 shows a week. You might have 2 matinees in a day. She said, these are not my normal fans. These are people who enjoy Broadway plays. So I really had to bring it because it's not like I had this solid fan base that would support me either way. She said, you have all these lines that you have to memorize. But, I'm glad that Ashanti had that experience. At least now her confidence grew even more because she knew, well, I can act. I can memorize lines. I can entertain in the realm of acting, and I can do it live on stage. So big ups to Ashanti for accomplishing that. And that is also, now that I think about it, another example of, when you think that something is totally ending for you, a door is closing, and then you reinvent yourself. And, you also have to look at it. I just heard this the other day that your path is just clearing. So Irv may have thought that he was stopping Ashanti's bag from working with Dr. Dre, but she just decided to reinvent herself and act on Broadway. And I think that that was very smart of her. So, what I also want to point out is, her new single, Falling for You. I actually watched the video. I thought it was great. I love the concept of falling for you. It is, she's going to this psychic, and the psychic is, pulling out these tarot cards, and she's dating this guy who's cheating on her. And the last tarot card says justice, and Ashanti, the house gets set on fire, and the song sounds hot. It sounds like classic Ashanti. So definitely check it out. You can check it out here on Ashanti's YouTube channel. It's called Falling for You, and it is awesome. And what I also want to talk about, I also took notes where Ashanti did say that Irv, when he was managing his artist properly, that he did push her to write better. Sometimes he would say, I don't like that song. That's BS. Go write it again. So she would go back and work on a song again. And, she did say that sometimes he was harsh. Also, Ashanti pointed out that, the Drink Champs interview was edited 16 times, and that she did have a conversation with Ja Rule, and she told him, you should have spoke up for me. And his response was, well, sis, you know that I'm Switzerland, meaning he's neutral, he ain't in it. But I will say, and this is not really to credit Ja Rule, but I will say that sadly, that is the nature of a lot of people when they see that someone is being harassed on the job or if they're being bullied. Nobody really stands up to the bully. None of the bystanders, the witnesses, nobody really stands up to the predator, the one who is sexually harassing on the job. They just kind of look at it like, damn, that's fucked up, and they don't really do anything about it. I will say, this was like definitely like a rarity. I've said in previous videos about 2 men that were harassing me on a previous job, and one gentleman of a different race, he did actually go to HR about something that he witnessed. So it does happen, not very often, because even my own sister Melinda, we are, I think, 17 years apart. She even said to me, "Wow, I wouldn't have done that," and I thought that was pretty fucked up to say. But yeah, most people will not speak up to the bully or to the predator. So Ja Rule's stance on telling Ashanti, "Yo, I'm Switzerland, I'm neutral," that's pretty much expected. I'm not saying that it's okay to be that complicit. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said to not speak up on wrongdoing. You're just as wrong. You're being complicit. You're okay with the fuck shit that's happening to someone else. So I just wanted to point that out. And Ashanti said that she didn't know for a long time that Irv was married. He told her that she was separated. But in my opinion, you can't even mess with a man who is quote unquote separated from his wife, because that can be such a gray area. Now, Ashanti said that Irv told her, I only go over there to see my kids, and I live over here at a separate location. But still, if you're separated from your wife, at any time, if you want some, you might be able to go over there, say a few sweet nothings, and get you some. Or you may decide you want to reconcile with her. So where would that leave the woman, the mistress? So I can't even go for that if someone says that they're separated from their spouse. And Ashanti closed out the interview, on a very confident level. She said that she is hardworking, humble, and fearless. And I absolutely love that. Ashanti has a lot going on. I mentioned her new single, Falling for You, and the video. I love the concept. I thought it was very unique, very timely. People are into embracing manifestation, and some people do go to psychics. So I thought it was very current, and I love the video. Also, Ashanti has written a children's book called My Name is a Story. It is about having a unique name, or a name that is spelled in a unique way. And as a child, you have to navigate through being in school and the substitute teacher mispronounces your name. I know that happened to me. I spell Ebony in a very unconventional way. Here on YouTube, separate from show style and spirit, I just spell it in the conventional way, like the magazine, but I do spell Ebony in a very unique way, so I can relate. So I think that it is so cool that she's written a children's book called My Name is a Story. And definitely you should feel confident, in your name, that you have that uniqueness for a reason. Now, at the time of the podcast, Ashanti was filming a movie in Canada. And so she's definitely booked and busy. She couldn't speak much on the film, but I'm sure it's going to be great. So I kind of feel like it's so funny that Irv thought that he was embarrassing Ashanti, degrading Ashanti, but she has used his negativity for her positivity. She's done this interview with Angie Martinez. It's already gotten well over 500,000 views here on YouTube. Bloggers, we are commenting and giving our thoughts on the interview. I watched two other YouTube shows, Andrew Gabor and Jay Lee's Corner. I love Jay Lee. They both spoke on Ashanti's interview with Angie Martinez. I've made this video, obviously, and she has a lot of projects. So I am very happy for her. And basically, again, my takeaway was, that it's so hard for women in the workplace if a man is attracted to you. And, with Irv, he owned the record label. So he was even beyond being in a management position. It's just so hard for women, but you have to stick to your guns. You have to firmly say, no, I'm not interested. Leave me alone. And you just have to, if you have to speak up for yourself and go through HR, do that. At some level, the corporation will do something, because then they want it on record, if you ever try to sue, that when you did complain, they did move the guy, or something of that nature happened. But you have to be ready to say you might have to quit this job. but it's just so fucked up because it can happen, and it's really unfair. But those were my takeaways from Ashanti's interview with Angie Martinez. Please let me know what you thought of the interview. Thanks again for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Please hit the like button for this video. I write and speak from my heart, and it really helps with YouTube recommending my content to more people. I actually did a video recently on Assata Shakur from the Black Panther Party, the Black Liberation Army, and I've interviewed Simone. She is one of the mothers of Bryson Leaks' children. Bryson is the son of Nene Leaks. I've interviewed Winter Harris from Love and Marriage DC. I even did this Google slideshow of classic Real Housewives of Atlanta episodes. You can check that out here on my channel, Shows, Style, and Spirit. And please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I hope that you have an awesome Sunday and an awesome week. Take good care. Bye-bye.